Evening, Rob here. Evening, guys. Rob here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I was sitting on mute longer than intended. How are you doing, Len? How are you doing, Helen?
I'm good.
Hi.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
So I believe we're already recording and we'll give our peers a couple moments to join us. So I'm going to go back on mute for a moment. Good evening to everybody that's joined. We're about a minute early here, so we'll give everyone a chance to dial in and we'll start discussion at the bottom of the hour. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to CANA June meeting. Today's Wednesday, June 7th. I have a pretty full agenda here tonight, starting with introductions. I just want to give folks on the call a chance to introduce themselves. I'm Rob Morton, Delaware Ave. Looking forward to learning more about the waterfront tonight. Helen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. West End, and I'm also a volunteer with Friends of Tivoli, so I talk about that a lot.
Awesome. Len, how about yourself?
I'm an artist. I've been working in this part of New York State for the last 40 years, depicting historical subjects.
Incredible. Looks like Zach's joined. How you doing, Zach?
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Zach Simpson, Upper Washington Avenue.
And going around the phone here, Colin McKnight.
Hi, Colin McKnight, Mansion Neighborhood.
Louise.
Hi, Louise from the Sheridan Hollow Neighborhood Association and the Delaware Area Neighborhood Association.
Alex, you on the line here with us? Alex Lee?
Yes, I'm online. Thank you.
Michelle Shranatsky?
Yeah, Michelle Sarachinsky, and I'm Beverwick Neighborhood Association, and I also represent Father Dan from Blessed Sacrament Church.
And I apologize. This is Alex. I am with Parsons. I'm part of the study team for 787.
Excellent. Thanks for specifying. Do see you on the agenda there. Dan?
I'm Rita Campon, and I'm appearing as this weird number. I don't know why. I'm sorry about that. Like Alex, I'm also with Parsons and working with NISDOT on the new study.
Great. Salvatore?
Hi, Sal Storial with the Albany Police Department. I cover the Beverwick neighborhood.
Excellent. Scott?
Hi, I'm Scott Townsend. I'll be part of the agenda later with the Albany Riverfront Collaborative.
And Holly.
Holly Katz, Mansion Neighborhood.
Looks like we still have some neighbors dialing in here. Is there anybody I've missed? Kenneth?
Hi, Ken Lozier. I'm with the University of Albany, coordinator for off-campus student services.
Hi, good evening. This is Greg Richard with New York State DOT. With obviously my consultant team's got a couple folks that introduced themselves a moment ago. We'll chat soon.
Excellent. And anybody I may have missed? Apologies.
Jackie Kane, North Albany.
Evening, Jackie. So Albany Police Department, anybody from the police department able to take the floor?
Yes, sir. My name's Dan Webster. I'm with the Community Service Unit. I cover many different areas, but let's go through a few things that we got going on, and I'll let you guys move on with your meeting. I know you got a lot of stuff. One of the things, the trends that we're seeing. Now, this is something we've been pushing for a long time, and it's been going down a year wide, year to date, but the last month was a little alarming, and that's stolen vehicles. We had 39 vehicles stolen in the last month. So that's the time of the year where it should be going down from getting stolen because it's warmer out and you wouldn't leave your car running to keep it warm, right? That used to be the reason why we think people are leaving their cars running. But literally almost every time somebody steals a car in Albany, it's because they have the keys. So 39 in a month is a little concerning to me. We're still down 16% for the year, which is good. I thought the message was starting to get across. But the problem, it's not only a problem when somebody's vehicle gets stolen, it's a problem for them, but it's also people are stealing them and using them to commit other crimes. So if anything we can get out citywide is for people to just please don't leave their keys in the car, you know? That is something I know we talk about it a lot, but I think it's very important to help us on a lot of different things. One, we don't want to chase stolen vehicles because of all the things that can happen when people are driving reckless. We don't want people to have access to vehicles that they can commit other crimes in because then it's harder to track down the suspects. So there's a lot of reasons why we don't like it. I understand the reasons why somebody wouldn't want their car stolen. Plus, a lot of insurance companies don't even cover it if you do. Year to date, our robberies are up a little bit. So I'm just going to concentrate on the bad things right now. 21% up robberies. So that is forcibly stealing property from another, whether it be at a store or in person. So, but it was down 20% last month, in the warm weather month. So that's a good sign. And then I'm just going to talk about some of the shootings and stuff that we've had. Not specific shootings because we have a lot that are still under investigation. So I'm not going to really delve into any individual cases, but I'll just talk about a few stats that we got going year to date. We are actually down quite a bit in confirmed shots fired at this point this year, which is good. We're also down in gun arrests from last year. And that thought pattern to me is that there just must be less guns on the street, which is good. The problem is that some of the people that have them on the street are using them with bad intent. So,
Come on.
Yeah. But the good sign is that it seems to be a few less guns on the street than last year at this time. The last month was very busy for us. We had 14 shooting victims. So considering we've only had 31 for the whole year, that's a lot in 1 month. Now, last month, it's been a very warm month, and we always see an up in crime at that point. So that's why I don't like to get too much of statistics until the end of the year, because then you can really see how things have all gone throughout the year. So I won't beat that dead horse. But the only other thing I want to talk about, and this is very important for all the neighborhood associations to really help us out with, is we are in dire need of bodies. We need people to take the police test. The next test The application deadline is August 1st. It might get extended a little bit longer, but you know, anybody who's interested in a career to helping other people, please put the word out, because we can really use some bodies right now. I was told the other day by the young lady that does most of our recruiting is that there's not very many people that have even signed up for the test. So when I got on the job 19 years ago, literally 600 people took the test to become a police officer. Now we're not getting anything near that. So we really wanted to, we're going to be pushing real hard this summer to try to get more bodies. I would love to see more people from Albany put in for the jobs, because as somebody from Albany, I believe that when you have a vested interest in the city, it makes you a better officer. Just my opinion. So other than that, I'm not gonna keep going on the recruiting thing. I'm probably gonna talk about it next month and the month after that. So just be ready. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, that's all I have right now.
Thank you so much, Officer Webster. Anything further for APD? Moving on through our agenda here, we have New York State DOT, Britta Campon and Alex Lee. And apologies, it looks like Alex, you're actually with Parsons, like you mentioned earlier, as well as Scott Townsend. Feel free to take the floor.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. This is Greg Richter with New York State DOT. We've been getting the word out about the beginning of the reimagined I-787 Pell study, planning and environmental linkage study. That's just getting underway. Rita and Alex are from Parsons, our consultant partners that we've got on board to help us with this. It's going to be a lot of public outreach, public engagement, and really starting with a blank slate of, you know, not paying attention to what was done in the past, but looking at where the challenges of the future changes and whatnot can occur. And it starts with collection of not only data, but collection of public visions and desired improvements to connections and challenges of navigating. So with that,
from where
the big reason to be here today is our first major formal public meeting is on June 27th at the MVP Arena. From 4:30 to 7:30 officially. I'll probably be there a little before and a little after, but we want to get the word out that our first meeting is coming up and just give folks a little idea of what to expect. It's you know, it's going to be an open house format. You know, our friends Rita and Alex here, you know, they're working to put together various stations to collect public input on their ideas, their, you know, things in the corridor. I don't know if Rita or Alex, is there anything you want to add to what I'm saying here?
Well, I can go. This is Alex. Maybe some folks don't know what a Pell, Planning Environment Linkage Study is. It's a New York State DOT is taking a look at this as an innovative approach based on some federal process in terms of it's preceding what we call the National Environmental Policy Act study. So when any time the federal government turns dirt, they have to analyze the effect of turning dirt, and that's the NEPA process. Pell is something that is new in the past few years that has come along to basically precedes any construction decisions. So that gives New York State DOT a better understanding what the community needs are as Reimagine 787 and develop alternative solutions based on those needs. And so we're just getting started, like Greg mentioned, June 27th at MVP Arena. Love to see everyone come down, you and your neighbors, to come in and provide that initial input. And like Greg mentioned, this will be basically a clean slate. So what is the vision, or what do you envision 787 as it relates to you, your community, your commute, or getting in and around.
And I would just like to add that the meeting is in the media room in the MVP arena, and it would be great if you all help us get the word out to get a good showing that night. So whatever you can do, tell your friends, your neighbors. We'll be sending out a flyer. If you could forward it to everyone you know, that would be really, really helpful.
Question on the selection of venue, the MVP Arena. When I think of that location, I think of the barriers with parking. Why would you choose that location for public input?
Well, we're going to have free parking. We're going to offer parking vouchers. No place is ideal, but that's kind of met the requirements. It has enough space, and you're absolutely right. We can't not have free parking. That cannot be a barrier. So we've made an arrangement for that. So you just have to, we'll have people out, giving out passes, and also in the welcome table, we'll have someone there. So you will not have to pay.
Yep, we made sure that was not a barrier. So, just be sure to use the MVP parking garage is the part of the word. They'll have that all figured out so that no one has to pay to park. Usually it's $10, but we're going to absorb that, and we haven't figured out.
Looks like Helen's raising her hand.
Yes, in terms of participation, would you please put out information about access through CDTA? A lot of people don't have vehicles. So if you could include that, what's the bus route, where the stops, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. We are definitely going to do that.
Yeah, and it is pretty convenient to the transit routes there. So that was part of the selection. I know it's hard to pick a perfect arena with the right size, but that does have it is close to a pretty popular set of transit routes.
Yeah.
And Colin.
Will there be opportunities at some point for online input? I appreciate the fact that you're providing parking and everything, but there are some of us in the world who simply can't get there because of physical limitations.
Absolutely. The presentation materials that we use at the meeting are going to end up on the website, which is going live any day now. And that website will be a continuous conduit with an email address that is shared amongst us, that we'll all be able to collect your comments and respond to them. And this is not a one-time thing. This is going to be a continuous engagement, but the kickoff is you need a formal meeting as a kickoff, highlighted event, and then it'll just be continuous going forward.
And I know the domain's not live yet, but do we have a URL for what that website will be?
Yeah, I'm 99% sure it's going to be 787.dot.ny.gov. I can throw that in the chat right now. And the email, I'll put that in there too. And there's actually also a phone number I can put in the chat as well. It'll all be on the website, but I'll put all that in there. It's all singular point places to collect all this information.
Hey, Greg, just a quick question for clarification. Will there be any food there or anything, or any daycare services?
I don't believe there'll be daycare. That we can work out whether I'm sure there's water, maybe some refreshments of some sort, but we'll work on that more specifically. It is going to be an open house. It's roving, so as much as it's 3 hours, we don't expect people to stay the whole time. It's going to be come talk to us, provide your input, and and we're anticipating folks will move along, because once you provide your input and have your conversations with us and, feel satisfied, we assume folks will, move along out of just everyone's interest of time.
Thanks.
And just to clarify on the day parts, you said 3 hours. When does that run through again?
We're going to be 4:30 to 7:30. But if we have some stragglers at 7:30, I don't think we're going to be booting everyone out at 7:31, so. But we're trying to capture a good window that catches shift changes and, enough time for folks with different start and end times to get there.
Are there any additional comments or questions for Greg and the group here?
So I know I'm supposedly part of the group, but I do have a question, Greg. If I know we had some conversations, I deeply appreciate it. Could you just inform everybody here, if you can, what you anticipate the timeline will be for the public engagement? I know you said this is the first one, but how often do you think they'll be, and how long do you think that timeline will be?
Boy, it's going to ebb and flow over the coming 18 months. This is the first kickoff, and then there'll be obviously engagement with folks as they reach out. We anticipate another major public push of information of, here's the concepts we've cooked up thus far. Are there other concepts people want to provide? That's going to be in I'm going to say fall. And then in the following spring timeframe, and we're going to pin this down with better anticipated dates, but we're still formulating all of this based on input. And then the springtime, we plan to have another wave of engagement about I guess I'll say, really vetted concepts and what works and what doesn't, and why what works and what doesn't. And then through that summer, have a draft Pell report that will circulate, and then in the fall, a final public meeting for reactions to what we've come up with to incorporate to the final product. So it is going to be a robust public engagement for the next 18 months.
So, and just to clarify, I think I understand that. It sounds like all your meetings will be fairly large meetings where everybody's invited. You're not going to go down to the level of meeting neighborhood groups in certain areas.
We're cooking that up. The 2023, and the 3 to 4 months from now, that outreach effort, we may try to focus on a handful of smaller meetings instead of one giant venue, because we feel that we're formalizing this exactly, but we feel that type of outreach may get more reaction, more back and forth.
Yeah.
So and that's really the stage that we see getting the most new ideas. There's a whole bunch of ideas out there from various folks, like, the Albany Collaborative, you have your ideas. We have the Albany Waterway, they have their ideas. We have other ideas, but there's going to be new ideas that come up through both what we find and what public provides. So I feel that the fall is going to be where that smaller, not one group at a time, but a few groups at a time, smaller type engagement will.
Yeah, because I do, just having conversation, obviously I agree, there are ideas out there. You guys are going to formulate ideas. There's case studies all over. But beyond the design, I know also, having met with a lot of the neighborhood associations, there's going to be deep-rooted concerns that are kind of granular, but will be impacted by what you do. So I'm sure it'll be a good way for you to hear it, not just ideas on what the outcome could be, but things to just be aware of in their neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, and at the end of this, every idea is going to have a pros and cons of each, and very quickly the public will be able to react to those. And that's the idea is, what do we collectively think are not great ideas at the end of the day? And what do we collectively think are the best ideas at the end of the day? That's all gonna suss itself out as we go.
So that session, it seems like it's really about driving ideation and getting that public input. But how do we shape or imagine 787? Like specifically, how are we reimagining 787? Is this the entire duration from Albany to Cohoes, or is there a
The study area officially goes Albany up to Route 7, where it transitions to Cohoes, where it's not an interstate at that point. So we kind of stop there at Route 7, but we recognize that the major focus is the city of Albany, but we are still considering the Manans and Waterville to the north. And this visioning session, this first session, is for folks. We can't come up with things that solve problems if we don't understand where the problems are. So where do people see their connectivity challenges in whatever mode, walking, biking, transit, vehicular, where are people hamstrung right now, and where do people vision the improvements happening? Without that boots on the ground knowledge, we can't come up with ideas that get after what the community wants. So that's why we want to hear from the community at this stage. That's the point of this first meeting, is to really understand what you desire and the outcome, not what it looks like, but what you desire as an outcome. I want to get from here to there much easier. Okay, we have to, that's the idea. Does that make sense?
Indeed. And Helen?
Yes, I appreciate what Scott said. There are certainly large segments of the population of the city of Albany that don't readily have access to information about public meetings, things that are online. So I would encourage finding ways to reach out to West Hill, Arbor Hill, South End, Albany communities that don't normally have access to this information.
Yeah, we intend to continually outreach to various groups, neighborhood associations of all of the ones you named, and this group again, for certain.
You don't
Was
mind? Do you mind if I take a couple minutes and just describe what the ARC is going to be doing? Because as Helen was just saying, one of the things that we want to do is make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. Obviously, it's their choice whether they want to be involved, but we want to make sure that they know what's going on. So for those that don't know us, we're the Albany Riverfront Collaborative, and we've got several thousand people following us all on social media. We're doing a lot of posts, and really what our goal is here is not to design anything. And I want to make sure we're very mindful and respectful of the Parsons Group and DOT and all their knowledge. That's a wealth of knowledge. But what we are really trying to do is provide information for them. It's kind of changing now that you guys have graciously come on and told us about the first meeting. So what we'll be doing is if Greg and Alex and you guys can send us a flyer, we'll post it. We'll get it out as much as we can, and I would encourage everybody on this call and anybody that couldn't make it tonight. I'm assuming you'll send out meeting minutes and everything. We'll make sure that we encourage them to do it. And I know we have a very deep mail list, and we're about to send out a newsletter, and we were waiting to send it out so that, and it's good for you to know, Greg, we wanted to announce this because we knew you were going to come out. So our newsletter has, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people that were on that list. So we'll keep doing that. What I would encourage, if anybody hasn't done it, is feel free to go on our website, which is just Albany Riverfront Collaborative.com. I'll put it all in the chat. And also on there, you can either sign up for our newsletter we're supposed to, and one of the things that we're trying to do is give a lot of information. If anybody goes on the resource page, you'll see we have a lot of articles, and the articles are broken down into various things. And there's just a wealth of knowledge. We're actually a little behind. We have to add a few more. So we'll keep that up. And if you notice, it's very unbiased. We're not trying to push any agenda. We're just trying to say, here's what we think, and this is what we know, and then we'll give you case studies. As a side note, like right now, we've been doing a lot of panels recently, and I'm not sure if even DOT knows this, but we've been collaborating with the people from Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and even the BQE in doing panels, and we've gotten to know them a lot. And so we've been helping each other and sharing notes and stuff. So we can bring some things, not necessarily that work for 787, because when you're doing design, each case is different, but it's just good to have people, and we'll try to bring some of that knowledge back to Albany and share it with everybody. So that's really what we're doing. And we're going to just encourage all of us, because this is an opportunity that won't happen for another, half a century or a century, and a lot of us won't be here to enjoy it. So we really want to get everybody involved, and I think it's a great opportunity. I personally am looking forward to working with everybody that's involved at DOT and the Parsons team. So we will do anything we can. I'll leave my personal email in the chat box if anybody has any suggestions for us. We do know all the neighborhood associations, so we can make sure everyone knows about it. And obviously, CANA does too, so we can all do that. One thing I want to say too is we're going to be looking for a little bit of volunteers to help us out a little bit. And the one thing that we're going to do is we're looking for volunteers and some board members. We are a 501c3. And we definitely want to reach out to those communities that have been deeply impacted. And we want a lot more BIPOC representation. And, so we look like our community, and we are the community. So that's it for me. I'll put a couple things in chat box, but thanks for giving me a few minutes.
Thank you so much. Anything additional on reimagining 787?
Hi, this is Rita Campone again from Parsons. Thank you, Scott, for that. That's what I was hoping to hear. We definitely could use your help in getting the word out, and especially social media and whatever you can do. I also do agree with you that a mixture of large and smaller format meetings, going to the neighborhoods, is something we've always done on our projects when we do public outreach. And you're able to reach people that you might not otherwise reach in the larger format. So just wanted to say we agree with all of that, and we're really looking forward to getting everyone's help to get the word out and get a good, strong showing on June 27th. And look for us there. We can meet in person. We're very excited to be on this project.
That's great. Yeah, speaking on behalf of everybody in the ARC, we're really happy, and we're happy to be at this point. It's a big milestone for all of us. So thank you.
We appreciate you sharing. Moving to the Albany Canal and Waterway, Len.
Nothing else. I think we're going to sign off for the night. So thank you all. We'll see you on the 27th.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks all.
I think that's really amazing that those guys signed off. It really annoys me a lot, tremendously. So Rob, I need to show some slides. So if you could set it up so that I can make the presentation. I'm so disappointed with DOT.
And Zach, can you give?
Yep, Len, I think you're okay to share on your end.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead.
Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
Do I need to do something at my end?
You gotta click your little share screen green icon at the bottom there.
Oh, okay.
And then there you go. You're all set, Len.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
Okay, great. Well, I'm an artist, although I'm also a licensed architect. I've been painting historical subjects in the Albany area for the last 40 plus years. And so I'll share some of that work with you tonight. This is a map that the Dutch drew of Albany in the 1630s. It's detailed. You can see the location of Fort Orange. You can see the Hudson River and a number of other facets of this community. This is the painting that I made of Fort Orange that was in part based on research that I did with that map and working with historians at the New York State Museum. This is another map of Albany. This one was drawn in the 1690s by a licensed surveyor, a British military officer. It's a very detailed map. This map can be laid on Albany today and the streets actually line up. This is an overview pen and ink drawing that I made from that map and other sources. This is another map of Albany, 1750s. Detailed map. I used that to make this painting of the city. We're looking from the Rensselaer side of the river to Albany on the other side of the river. Again, another map of Albany, 1770s, and a painting that was made from that map. This is the largest painting I ever made. It's almost 10 feet long. This is Albany in the 1860s, and again, a painting that I made of the city at that time. So you're probably wondering why I show all of these paintings. And over all this time, every single time I've come to paint Albany, one consistent detail has always captured my attention, and that's the arc of the shoreline. The river at Albany was almost twice as wide in the past as it is today. It was mostly filled in. So the water from the river came quite a ways into the city, almost to where Broadway is today. These are some plans that have been made of Albany over time. There are many of them. A lot of them have had a minor effect on improving the city, but none of them have really changed the fate of Albany. Albany is still struggling to get by. It's a city that's downtown is largely in decline. And one of the, what I have found is a consistent proposal that's being made is to try to somehow bring Albany back to the Hudson River. And I thought, what would happen if you turned it around? If you tried to bring, instead of bringing the city to the river, if we brought the river back into the city where it once was. The idea of a canal in a city is not a new thing. And particularly if you look back over the last 20 years, there are a lot of success stories. Buffalo has developed a successful canal side project, an amazing project. It's brought jobs to the city. It's brought entrepreneurial opportunities to people who are looking to create businesses. It's improved the lives of people in that area. The Bricktown Canal in Oklahoma City has done pretty much the same thing. It's not on the same scale as the Buffalo project, but it has worked. Probably the one that most people know about is the Providence Canal, the Providence River Walk. This has been a big success. This has really changed that city. It's entirely changed its focus. It's made it a destination. It's made it a tourist attraction. It's done great things for this city. They use it for their premier event, the water fire event in Providence. This is the Rideau Canal in Ottawa, Canada. And I show this canal because this canal is operated year-round. Here it is in its full holiday decorations, and here it is midwinter being used as for this huge skating event. San Antonio Riverwalk, another very famous American canal system. Beautiful, also relatively modest, but has a tremendous effect on tourism. People from our area have gone down there and experienced this and really loved it. They've had a great time there. Chicago has several canals. This is the biggest one, the Chicago Ship Canal. This is a navigable waterway used by fairly large vessels. But the incredible thing about Chicago is that it has these waterways that work their way through an enormous metropolitan area. Our project, the Albany Canal Project, sort of began a long time ago. This is the original site plan that was drawn by myself and 4 good friends of mine who have all since passed away. We drew this in the 1990s, and it was the idea of bringing a canal in at the south end of the city where there's already an easy underpass that passes below the highway, below the railroad tracks, and could be carried into a basin in front of the SUNY headquarters building, and then a canal that passed through the city. So the first option that we're proposing in this concept is the total transformation of the city by building an entire system, a canal system that would, again, carry through the entire city all the way down Broadway from the north end to the south end, exiting near the Central Warehouse building. The second option is just to focus at one end. Instead of building the whole system, just concentrate on the north end. The north end of that system is historically very important. It was the site of Lock 1 of the Erie Canal. There was a huge canal basin in that area. This was a staging area for the vessels that would be traveling through the Erie Canal from Albany westward. There was also a waylock there. So this existed historically at the north end of the Albany Basin. This is what's there now, or in that vicinity. One of the things that we tried to show in our conceptual design was what could happen if this building was altered, restored, reimagined, so that it could become part of the commercial fabric of the city. This is just one very simple idea. The panels on the outside of Central Warehouse could be removed and replaced with glass, brick. The building is so well built that it can easily withstand the construction of several stories on top of it. What I'm showing here is potentially some kind of restaurants or veranda or something like that. If that were done, if the canal, if Lock 1 was restored and the canal basin was restored in its original location, and Central Warehouse could ever reach a point where it was renovated, that area could be changed into something like this. And what we were thinking of for the north end is something that was sort of focused on the north end communities. Like we were thinking of possibly a civic center that was oriented to the neighborhoods in that area, commercial opportunities maybe for entrepreneurial individuals from those neighborhoods, open public pavilions that could be used for family reunions and weddings. There's also an allowance for substantial space around the Erie Canal restored basin for things like craft fairs, farmers markets, things like that. So the third option would be just to focus at the south end of the system. This would be the area right in front of the SUNY headquarters building. This is the facet of this proposal that I think is the most interesting to me, because this would really make Albany a destination. The old D&H building, this wonderful building that we have here, is probably the most iconic, beautiful work of Gothic architecture in all of Upper New York State. It's a fantastic asset for the city. A beautiful structure in so many ways. I mean, it's just it's something that should be cherished and enhanced in any way the city can. And so what I thought was, if you were to take that site and create a harbor in front of it, you have those beautiful wings of the D&H building that embrace this site. And you have the potential for one of the most glorious reflecting pools anywhere. When you compare what that is today, this is an incredibly underutilized urban area. It's sort of a waste of a major asset. I've been down there on many occasions. This is in the middle of a week. I saw no one in that park. It was just not used at all. There's very little traffic on Broadway there. All I can see when I look at that is what could potentially happen to it if it was ever turned into something really extraordinary. A place that people would enjoy year round and invite their friends to, a place that would attract attention all across this region and probably all across the state. It seems to me that that's a logical way to deal with this beautiful building and its lackluster setting. The fourth and final option, again, each one of these options could stand on its own, but the fourth option would be the restoration of a major American landmark. This is the Albany Lumber District. We were looking at Lock 1 and the Canal Basin. The interesting thing about Lock 1 is that we have a lot of information. We know its dimensions. We know we know where it was located. We have a lot of specific documentation. We know exactly where it's located. I mean, exactly. We have pinpoint accuracy information about its location. And how do we know that? 20 years ago, two professors from Union College with picks and shovels and the permission of the landlord dug a few holes in the corner of a parking lot, and 18 inches down from the surface, they found the top of Lock 1 intact. All the stones are still there. This is the last photograph that was taken of the lock before it was buried. It's just under the street. This whole lock, this wonderful structure that dates back to the glory days of the Erie Canal. So this is a kind of a conceptual site plan. That's the location of the lock. This is the access to the Hudson River and access that would be provided if we were to restore the canal basin exactly where it was all those years ago. And it could be a standalone, simple park. It could be watered or not, but it could be restored as a major landmark. This alone would be an attraction for Albany and a major restoration of a historic site. These are all concepts. They're just ideas. And what we have been looking for all along since the inception of this project to this day is the funds to find out whether any of this can be built. That's all we're really looking for. How much of this is possible? We have some indications that it's a feasible project, but what we need is a comprehensive review of the terrain, the utilities, and all the rest of it to find out if and how much of it could be built. We know that projects like this have greatly benefited the cities where they have been done before. So kind of in closing, 1825 was the year the Erie Canal opened. In 2 years, 2025, we're going to be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal. And we were thinking, what better tribute could you pay to that anniversary than to restore Lock 1? So here we have Albany of today, very limited in its connection with its roots, its history, the past that made it a glorious city. And we have that arc of shoreline, which is a constant reminder of how far into the city the Hudson River once came and what it might become sometime in the future. And so to that, that is the end of my program. I would like to say that Albany Waterway does have a website. It's albanywaterway.org. And this entire presentation in a lot more detail is available on YouTube if you search a canal for Albany. So are we all back now, Rob? Everything all set up?
Yep. Great
Okay,
presentation.
good. Oh, thank you.
Ready to take some questions and comments?
Absolutely, yeah.
Maura.
Hello. So thank you for that presentation. Your artwork is it's just so beautiful. And just what a cool, I love history. It's such a cool presentation. So thank you. My question for you is this, I'm wondering about, given, the PCBs that are at the bottom of the river, all the other, toxins of various kinds, that are in the waterway, on the street, under the street. To me, the biggest concern is really about the environmental mitigation. And I'm wondering if you have, if you can speak in a bit more detail about that.
Well, we had, this is all preliminary, but we did have engineers from one of the largest engineering firms in the country, Sasaki, and they have affiliates all over the world. They've worked on many waterfront projects like this, and they've worked in areas that are highly polluted, like Brooklyn and Chicago and Boston and Washington, D.C., as well as European cities. They feel that this project is possible. We would like to hire them to tell us that it is possible. We want to understand all those concerns that are going to come up when people start to talk about things like that. Now, I know that they have used canals to the environmental benefit of areas where they produce these things. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the answers to those questions, but I do know that you have to think of the canal itself. I mean, I don't know about the absolute engineering details of this, but when we had looked into this before, there was a company that produced prefabricated canal sections that are really like a gigantic concrete gutter. And what you did was you excavated the ground and then you installed these concrete intersecting gutter sections. And so the water that's coming through the canal is the same as the water that's in the river. I mean, that's one facet of it. We won't know the answers to all these things until we have the funds for a feasibility study. And I'm willing to accept the results of that feasibility study, even if they say this is not possible. But in my heart, I believe that this could change Albany forever.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. It certainly would change Albany forever. Thank you so much. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Len?
Arlene, did you have a question?
No. Len, I wanted to ask, do you have an idea of how much the feasibility study would cost?
Yeah, we're thinking about, well, at the low end, I think $350,000. At the high end, I think $500,000. I think that with that amount of money, we could get the answers to the questions that come up most often. What I was hoping to do is we've been thinking about putting together a public program where it would be a whole day, four different programs. The morning session would be, the first program would be the two professors from Union College are still working on that site to find out if they can determine what artifacts are still underground from the 1800s. They have found Lock 1. They found the 1840 way lock. They think they have found the very first canal lock, which is in that same vicinity around Central Warehouse, and the original way lock. So the first program in the morning would be these two gentlemen presenting the findings of their archaeology. The second program would be pretty much what I just did. It would just be our concept, how it originated, and how it has evolved. The afternoon session would be the engineers from Sasaki, who would be there to answer questions about projects that they've done that were similar to what were being proposed here in Albany. And then the fourth program, later in the afternoon, would be representatives of Providence, Rhode Island, the Rideau Canal in Canada, the San Antonio Canal, possibly the Bricktown Canal, and they would be talking about how much it cost their cities to build these things and what the outcome was after they built these things, how it benefited the people who live there, and how it introduced tourism into their cities. So I would like to see that happen because it would give us a well-rounded idea of what could take place if we were to engage in something like this.
And how much would that cost, do you think?
Well, we have, this wouldn't cost, I don't think, well, we might charge maybe for admittance, maybe. It might cost like people who are attending maybe $10 or something like that. But our group has established itself as a 501(c)(3). We have 500 friends, or a little over 500 friends, who support us, and we've been receiving donations from people. So we have a little war chest, and I think we have enough in our war chest to pay for the expenses of some of these people who would be coming to Albany to talk. So I don't think the funding is a problem. I think it's more like getting our group together, settling on a date, and just kind of pulling it all together. But I'd like to see that happen pretty soon.
Hi, Len. By the
Hi,
way,
Scott.
you are a great artist.
Oh, thank you.
It's amazing. The one thing I just want to say for everybody, including you and I, is that what's tricky about this is obviously we had with DOT, they can only control their land. So this DOT, I just want to be careful because this is, I know they say feasibility study, but I just want to bring to everybody's attention that this is actually a design. I know back in 2018, just so everyone knows, Clough Harbor did a feasibility analysis and talked about different things. And that study was only 300,000. This is 17 times that amount of money because they're intending to move forward with this. So the one thing that we just have to be cognizant of, and I'm very sensitive to it, Len, and I understand what you're trying to do, is that unfortunately they can come up with some recommendations, but they can't come up on recommendations that are not their land. So we're just going to have to figure that out. And I've been saying this for a while, and I know you agree with this, is that this is really a community design. And I want to kind of appeal to everybody here that's on the CANA meeting, is that we need to get the city behind a little bit to get the city organized to realize that whatever DOT does, it's going to have ramifications on the community. Because they, like I said, they can only control their land. So we need to figure out how to counterbalance it. Just like Len's saying that there might be there's great opportunities here, but we got to realize DOT can't solve all those problems. And so we got to figure out how to balance out whatever they're doing with what the opportunities are, as well as what the constraints are that they have. So I just wanted to point that out for everybody.
And Scott, thanks for talking through that. One of the questions in the chat here is, how does this connect with the previous presentation? And I think on the surface, it looks like these are the same conversation, but as we know, there's many different authorities looking at land use and whatnot. But Len, can you speak more to how what you're presenting, how it stands unique to our prior presentation?
The 787 initiative is really, I realize and have realized that it's really a separate project. It's about something else. The canal idea was conceived right from the get-go as being something that stood on its own initiative without any interference in the highway at all. So although I think that there are enhancements that can come out of the 787 project that would definitely make this canal idea even more viable. I mean, there are a number of things. I mean, you're going to be bringing cars into certain parts of the city where they haven't been before. And the whole idea, there are aspects of the 787 proposal that I find really positive and would definitely improve life for people who live in Albany, not the least of which is to slow traffic down as it's going through the city. But I don't, it's funny because our canal project kind of being lumped in with the highway project, I'm not sure of how that fits either. I mean, our idea is about improving the city, not improving transportation, but improving the city in many, many other ways than just transit. It's about opportunities. It's about jobs. It's about harboring respect for ourselves and the place where we live and everybody who lives here in every community. So I don't necessarily. I think the reason why I was bothered when DOT decided they were going to go home is they should at least know what this is about, what the waterway is about, and what the canal idea is about before they, turn off the lights and get in their cars. And so that's why I was annoyed by that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add on to the conversation. I agree with you, Len, that this is about improving Albany, and I'll add another layer to it, is that I'm very sensitive to what the damages were done, 50, 60, and conceived 70 years ago to all of the communities. And the thing is, we're not going to go back. It's not going to be looking back and trying to put it back the way it was, because let's face it, we're in the 21st century. We're not going back there. But we also have to rectify some of the things that were done. The thing is, like we're talking about, and Len's certainly talking to it, it's a community design project. And, when you look at it that way, is what is it that we want as an outcome? We can tell DOT what we want as an outcome, but if they can't do anything about it, it's just going to be kind of wasted. I don't want to say wasted. It's good for them to know. But the thing that I've learned talking to other people that are doing things in different parts of the country, now we're blessed with having water right next to us. A lot of places do not. So we have an opportunity that most places don't. But the one thing that I've learned, the ones that have been very successful are the ones that parallel a community design with a transportation design, because DOT is quite frankly, they're focusing on the transportation side of it. And we're all talking about parkland, reconnecting the communities, like you're saying, Len, get people down in the streets, get activity. And I'm also looking at it from a standpoint of generational wealth, creating all of those opportunities that haven't been here for a long time. And we can do all those things, but we need to realize that this is the opportunity to do it, but we got to figure out how to all come together to do that together. I don't have an answer for it, but I want to bring it up to everybody to really start deeply considering that.
I appreciate this opportunity to present to this group. We did it before, maybe a year ago or so, but yeah, it does involve all of us. It involves all of us. It involves us because you hear that police report, and you pick up the newspaper, and you can read. If you read between the lines, it's a lot of those issues, a lot of those problems come from people in despair, people who see no future, who have limited or no opportunities. And I don't know whether this project changes that, but I can't see how a city in decline improves it.
Len, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Could I make one more comment before Len leaves?
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not DOT.
Oh, thank you. Before the topic changes, I guess. With the upcoming public comment period for the 787 project, are there points that you could identify now where attention should be paid in the redesign of 787 to allow future development of the waterfront concept that we could carry to the meetings or online? If there's specific language that we could use to help make sure that the opportunities aren't lost to do the concept that you've described when the state eventually does something with 787, that would be very helpful. To me, it looks like there's plenty of opportunities for your project to collide badly with theirs, unless certain spots are reserved for this kind of development, such as making sure that there's places where the underpass can be reserved. So if there's things that you can think of that we can help carry that water for, that you could share back with us as a group, I think that would be very helpful.
What I said earlier, I think, is really a very good feature of what I've seen of the 787 initiative, and that is this this boulevard concept, the idea of letting the traffic slow down, even stop. There's a great example of that in Connecticut on Route 9 from just south of Hartford. It kind of diagonally cuts across the state and goes down toward the town of Saybrook. Route 9 goes right through a city. It goes right through Middletown in Connecticut. And when you exit the highway at Hartford and get on Route 9, it's a 4-lane highway with speeds around 65 miles an hour. So you're moving along at highway speed. And after about 10 miles, you start to see signs that there's traffic lights ahead. And as you come, you start to slow down. And when you get to Middletown, there are 3 or 4 traffic lights. So you have to stop. and you drive a block and you stop again, and you drive a block and you stop again. And the interesting thing comparing it to Albany is Middletown is on one side of that highway, on one side of Route 9, and the Connecticut River is on the other side. So the city is cut off from the river. But at those intersections where the traffic lights are, there are pedestrian crossings. So you can cross from the city right out to the water. There's a few restaurants and I think a marina or two there. So it has that effect. The other effect it has is, and this has happened a few times to us because we use that route often. You get to the first traffic light and you think, it'd just be my wife and I, and you feel like a cup of coffee. You're hungry. Should we get lunch? By the time you get to the second traffic light, you're thinking, let's go up to Main Street and see what's up there. So it serves that purpose of kind of reinvigorating the main drag of that city, just because you're slowed down there. If those lights weren't there, you would drive right past that city at 65 miles an hour and never know it was there. So I think there's a lesson there of just one facet of improvements to the 787 system that could benefit the city. And the idea that, see, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with all the details of what's being proposed by the 787 group, because if it's not a design, then I don't know how to respond to it. It's an idea, but it's too vague to say this is good or this is bad. And there's also there are a lot of issues that if you live around here, you can see, like just the fact that 1,000 cars filled with oil coming down from Canada on the railroad stack up in Albany, and that creates such a wall between the city and the river, and that's not an easy thing to solve. The highway is less of a problem than solving that vital access of oil to the port of Albany. So I don't know enough about the project. Perhaps you do, Scott, but I don't know enough about the project to be able to even describe that.
Yeah, I do. I'll be very brief. I want to respect everybody's time, but I'm actually familiar with Middletown. I used to go down and visit some folks down there. The one thing I want to say about this, the Albany Riverfront Collaborative, we've always looked at it as a community design project. The one thing that's important to know is, I know people look at it as 787, people look at it as a boulevard, but the way we look at it is it's improving the city of Albany and improving it for the residents of the city of Albany. It's not so much taken through the lens of the commuter or the driver. They have to be accommodated, but it wasn't intended to be designed for them, because let's face it, the city of Albany's property and the Hudson River in front of the city of Albany really should be enjoyed and appreciated by those that live there, while accommodating people that come through the city. So we always focus on that. And the thing is too, in terms of, we were always, when we first started, and you probably remember, Len, is that no one was talking about 787 and the riverfront at the time. So our first goal was to, yes, we had to put forth a design just to get people beyond what they could see every day and realize it could be something much different. And the one thing that's important to know is that what we were presenting came out of the 2018 Clough Harbor report, where they said this is viable. It would need more analysis, but this is certainly viable to do something like this. And so what we did is we captured that and realized, let's do that, get people's imaginations going, get everybody all together to realize together we can do this, which we feel like we've, done a good job. We're all having this great conversation, which I'm grateful for. And, really what it came down to was, when the time came when we started flipping the powers that be to actually put money forth, which they have, it's great. Now all of us can contribute to it. So it really is always about co-creation and making a much better Albany. I'm an expert in some things, but I'm not going to tell people what's best for them. So I'd like to hear from everybody to let them say what's best for them. And that's just the way we've been going about this whole project. That's why over the next, 3, 6 months to a year, we're going to be out there pushing as much information and getting people involved and making sure everyone talks and contributes as much as they can.
So I don't mean this to be a flippant remark, and but I'm pretty certain of this. No one is going to come to visit Albany as a tourist to see a highway. And the whole idea of our project was to encourage tourism to the city to revitalize it. And I still feel that that's a great highway and a dying downtown is not it's not as interesting to me as just that one section in front of the old D&H building as a destination, a place to go and sit and be with your friends and have lunch or whatever. I still sort of feel that way. I mean, I don't know enough about highway engineering to know what's even wrong with 787. People who tell me it's overbuilt and all of that stuff. I don't know any of that. I mean, I drive through Albany and I can get from one side of the river to the other. I can get into the Empire State Plaza. I can get from Albany to Menands to Troy and kind of in a short amount of time. I don't know why. I don't know what to say about what's wrong with it.
Well, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but a lot of people have been saying it is way overbuilt. And I don't know, Rob, can I share a screen real quick?
Sure.
Let me just see if I can pull it up real quick. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, but give me 1 second. I'll get it real quick. I think what we need to do is not look at it from a highway, because our intention is not to be a highway. And I'm assuming everyone will see this real quickly. This is what's downtown. We can't look at it as the convenience of getting into Empire State Plaza. In my opinion, we can't look at it. We got to look at the devastation it created on the ground. And this is one of the things that, quite frankly, holds it back. So I want to reframe this, Len, and this is just good conversation, is that it's not a highway project. We're not proposing a highway. We're proposing a beautiful city. And if we were to downsize a highway, as Clough Harbor said in their study that they did for DOT, down to the level it could be, we can recapture 92 acres in the capital of New York State. 92 acres in the capital of New York State is wonderful. We can do some of the things you might be talking about, Len. We can do affordable housing. We can do mixed use. We can do parkland. We can do all those things. But 92 acres captured in the capital of New York State is just something that's unfathomable to all of us. And that's what we got to start thinking of. That's what we're actually looking at when they're talking about this. So it's not one solution or the other. It's just a great opportunity for a lot of things.
Scott, before you change slides, I don't know if you're going to go to a different slide, but this
no,
one
I'm
is
just going to take it down.
Okay. This one is interesting to look at. I think most people would agree that Quebec in Canada is a beautiful city. If you've ever been there, if you've ever stayed there, it's a fun city. Lots of stuff. It has enough of a European flavor to make it exotic. Quebec has a highway that looks exactly like this, with these concrete structures and ramps and roadway above, a site almost identical to this photograph. We were in Quebec about 5 years ago, and we weren't staying at a real fancy place, so we had a little bit of a walk to get to the downtown area. And as we started to walk down, there was evening, we started to walk down there, we noticed that crowds were all heading in the same direction. So we sort of joined in with the crowds, and we got to this space under a highway that looks exactly like that. And in Quebec, what they had done was suspended from the bridge, from those ramps, and hanging down to the ground was an aerial act put on by Cirque du Soleil with lights and trapeze artists. And it was a huge and incredible circus event that took place under the highway. So it seems to me that imagination is part of what is needed to kind of make a space more dynamic than it is. And I'm just throwing that out there because I've been in a space exactly like that was wonderful to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I know you have a question now, Helen. I just got one real quick, just so I hear what you're saying. It can be imagined, have some imagination. I have no problems with that. Cirque du Soleil is going to happen once every 6 months, maybe. And the unfortunate part is Albany has thousands upon thousands of feet of this. This is not just one isolated case where you could solve one problem. We have this problem a multitude of times. And so I guess what I'm trying to get to is we can build a much more humane city. If you really walk down in the parking lot district, which we're all kind of fed up with being a parking lot district, that should have been developed. If that was any other city, it would have been developed, years ago. And it's stuff like this because that cuts us off from the south end and everything. It's just not healthy. So I hear what you're saying. There may be moments where we have to be really creative, but at the same time, I think we really need to look at the holistic picture, in my opinion. Obviously, that's my opinion. So.
I don't mean to,
Scott. And I want to give Helen a chance. Helen's hand's been raised for a moment.
I live in the West End. I do a lot of work in the West Hill with Tivoli Preserve. Kids don't know about the Hudson River.
No.
We have kids in Albany who don't know about the Hudson River. They've never seen the Hudson River. Right. The Patroon Creek has been daylighted. They see that and they are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
We are cut off from our history, from our legacy. I just want to say that the kids, if the kids haven't seen the ridge, we live in Albany. They don't know about the Hudson River. So I think that's very important to keep in mind.
Yep.
Great point.
Agreed.
So it sounds like we could go all night on the Hudson River and 787. Was there anything additional on this topic, or are we good to move on to our committee reports?
I just want to say thank you for having me and us. So
looking forward to that discussion on the 27th. And Len, I love that website. I tried to screen capture all your maps. I'm also a student of GIS, so I have an appreciation for what you're presenting. And ultimately, this conversation about reclaiming space and making a desirable place, inspiring. But moving on to committee reports. Was there anything from our committees? I know John isn't on to present on codes. Was there anything else for committees? And moving on to communications and announcements. We've got our CANA dues, $25 for 2023. That's for neighborhood associations, $10 for individuals. Wanted to mention that, as well as open it up for any new business. Anything to discuss as far as new business on this call? Moving along to our financial report.
Yeah. Our current balance is 2808. And I saw the list of names out there. There's one or two that was added in the last week or two. I don't have them with me, but there's one or two more. I think one was a neighborhood association and one was an individual. So nothing new, no expenses yet.
Just bear with me. I'm going through the agenda. Now, last thing, future meetings. We're going to be taking a few months off. We'll be reconvening September 6th. After that, we're scheduled for October 4th and November 1st. I hope everybody enjoys their summer. We'll reconvene September 6th. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Everybody,
thanks.
have a good summer.
Yep.